What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more hard trance. And unlike when I normally say that about a mid-90s tune, this is actually straight away hard trance, not acid trance, though it is featured on a record. And as you'll see here, I have both a white label copy of this and an official copy. It's featured on a record that has one of my favorite acid trance tunes of all time. As you can probably also hear, there are a lot of fireworks going off outside. It is July 4th, so this is probably going to be happening for the next couple hours, so for this batch of audio reactions, I just encourage you all to bear with me. But yes, we're going to listen to a tune by Nexus 6, most famously known as Mandala. It was a duo, Ray Boy and the now deceased Commander Tom, or Tom Weyer, R.I.P. to him. And yes, this is a tune from 1994. It's Noom 6, Noom being one of the legendary hard/acid trance German labels, along with Time Unlimited and a few others. But yes, this is very early in Noom's history, and to my mind, it's a real watershed release. It's a real game changer in terms of what Noom was doing and what made it such a special label. Now, again, I didn't get into techno and trance and acid and hardcore and so on until the second half of '96. So when this came out, I was still a couple of years away from getting involved in the rave scene, but by, I'd say, '97, '98, I had heard the tunes on this record, and then even though I didn't get it right when I got my turntables, over the coming years I got, again, an official copy of this release, and then I think later, no, actually I think maybe I got the white label first, but yes, I got both a white label copy and an official copy. And as I said, this is by Nexus 6 or Mandala. Now, I think I did a reaction for Ab Chic, which is actually the B2 track on this release. One of my favorite tunes of all time, one of my favorite acid trance tunes of all time. I've used it in so many mixes. It's just brilliant. It's a masterclass in mid-90s acid trance. It's trippy, it's slippery, it's atmospheric. It's just fantastic from start to finish. And as I said, I think I've done a reaction to it. There's one or two remixes of it. I don't think either of them are anywhere near the level of the original. So while I do have those remixes and enjoy them, if I'm going to play Ab Chic, I'm going to play the original. But again, the track we're going to listen to now, the A1 track, or the A track, A-side track, is Trés Chic, and it's the name of the release. It's the Trés Chic EP, and then there's also the B1 track, Time Chic. Now, all three of them are great tunes, and this track, Trés Chic, is actually quite famous in hard trance circles. But for me personally, and I think for some others, judging at least by the interaction with the comment I wrote on the Discogs page for the master release of the Trés Chic EP, now, I don't know, a dozen years ago, a decade ago, it does seem like there's some other people who agree that Ab Chic is the absolute masterclass of this release. And though Trés Chic is good and Time Chic is also good, they are multiple steps below Ab Chic. Again, at least to my ears and brain and some others. In any case, we're going to listen to Trés Chic, the title track. It is fast, it's driving, it's grinding. It has this haunting vocal synth melody/rhythm to it, and that really gives it a lot of atmosphere. And again, I like this tune a great deal, but it doesn't feature, at least as I'm recalling as I sit here, any acid work. Certainly not any acid work of note. Time Chic, I think, features a little acid squiggle along the way, but it's in a real supporting role, and maybe I'm not even remembering that right. Maybe it's just kind of a squiggly little synth. So yes, Ab Chic, if you're into acid trance, that's where to go on this release. But Trés Chic here and Time Chic are also good. And this is from '94. Now, I've mentioned in a number of reactions over the years, even though I can appreciate the stuff from the very late '80s and early '90s, you know, the sort of acid house, the early trance, the early acid techno, it's not until you get to about '93 or '94 that I start to like more of the tracks in the genre. And even then, '93 and '94, I'm a lot more hit or miss. Some tunes I like, some tunes just don't quite do it for me. When you get to '95, and especially when you get to '96, then a lot of acid trance and a lot of acid techno is very much to my taste. And for me personally, and this probably relates to my age and the history, the sort of, you know, random or happenstance of my involvement with the acid and techno and trance scenes, 96 to 98 to me is like the golden period. 96 to 98 for acid trance and acid techno is just the absolute golden age. But again, there are tunes from like 93, 94, 95 that I like, and this release from 94 I think is not only one of them, a great example of them, but in a way it was a little bit ahead of its time, at least in regard to ab chic. So yes, Trés Chic here, very fast, very grinding, haunting, and unrelenting is the way I would put it. So let's give it a listen, and to avoid disturbing Luca here, we're going to use the white label copy, I guess. This is Trés Chic from the Trés Chic EP, 1994, on the legendary Noom label by Nexus 6, who were most famously known as Mandala. Baseline. Stripped down, tribal interlude. I love that clap, that isolated clap. The acid. Not sure. notice the calm, tranquil, and slumbering Luca, despite all the fireworks. But yeah, I think I was wrong. I think some of the more bleepy end of that main melodic run, which can also sound very hard and grinding at different points, I think that is probably a 303. Now, it's not super bubbly or super shredded or gurgling type acid, and it's not the acid saturation in different layers that Ab Chic is. So again, it is more straightaway hard trance than anything, but I think maybe there was actually some acid work on that track, despite what I said at the beginning. But again, definitely in a supporting secondary or even tertiary role. And yeah, that like main like lead grinding synth, that definitely has a hard edge to it. It makes me think of like planetary exploration, but unlike Ab Chic, which is like going to this like acid planet with flows and different colors and so on, this feels like exploring an airless like rock or mountain planet. It's very barren and Spartan and like bleak, which I don't say as a criticism of the track, but yeah, it gives me a very hostile, dark type of environment perspective, or rather vision, even if it does also make me think of planetary exploration. But yeah, there's that hard grinding synth, then there's that low gurgling, or rather like driving bass line. There was a point like, I don't know, a minute and a half, 2 minutes in, where it had already been going for a bit, and then I said bass line and it came in. That is also, I think, a really crucial component of the tune. And in the parts that it's in, it's very much like the driving engine of the track. So again, it's very fast. I don't know exactly BPM. I'm guessing like 150, 155, something like that. It is very fast, which is actually very reflective of hard trance, like 93, 94, 95, like 94, 95 especially. In 96, 97, 98, the tempo slowed a bit, but it got, generally speaking, and obviously, you know, these are oversimplifications, and there's different substyles, and different artists, you know, would do things that were maybe outside the trends of a given year, either like still doing what earlier tracks did or being a bit ahead of their time. But generally speaking, 96 to 98, the tune slowed down a little bit, but got denser and a bit more layered and nuanced. So yeah, again, this to me does very much sound like 94, and again, it's not my favorite tune on the record, but I think it is a fantastic hard trance tune, and again, maybe with a little acid sprinkling more than I was remembering. And I do think this is held in very high esteem by those who were into hard trance in the 90s. So yeah, it's a classic track. It is an incredible release. All three tunes are good, even if, one more time I'll say it, Ab Chic is a contender for my favorite tune on Noom, like period. And believe me, the number of quality releases on Noom, that's a big statement. Now, again, if you know me really well, if you've been following acid trance and acid techno reactions here for a long time, you'll know that Noom 18 by Kors, Michael Kors, the Matabu release, all three tracks on that are great, and Matabu Part 2 might be my all-time favorite on Noom, maybe even a millimeter ahead of Ab Chic here. But the point is, this is an incredible release. I very much do like Trés Chic, and it is, as I said, also held in very high esteem among hard trance fans of back then. So that's enough talking for me. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.